What's up, guys? Welcome back to the infamous project. Today's episode is going to be what happened to. That's right. I've got a lot of questions over the past year of people wondering what happened to some of the builds and some of the cars that were featured on the channel at some point and just there was never any follow-up. So things like the Super Noof, right? That beautiful burgundy notch with the crazy supercharged drivetrain that I got off the Widow that was in a storage barn a couple years back. People want to know what's going on with Lemon Dropped. The last time I was putting Jaguar door handles in at my Canadian painter's shop before I left for Texas. The 88 T-Top, right? The one that, the Pissbox Fox that it was nicknamed. What else do people ask about? They ask about the old white BMW. They ask about the 58 Corvette and when we're going to see content on that, so on and so forth. So this is going to be the episode where I'm going to talk about where some of these cars have ended up and what the future is, because, well, some of them have futures and some of them not so much. So stick around. All right, guys, let's kick it off with the Super Noof, right? So if you guys don't remember this car, I randomly stumbled upon it in a guy's storage area right when I went to go look at the convertible that had caught fire and that I got running. So in fact, let's talk about that convertible because that is one that a lot of people asked about. 1990-ish, 90 through 93, red convertible, caught in a garage fire, and unfortunately it wasn't the car that had caught fire, it was something else in the shop. I think it had to do with the air compressor. Some burning debris fell down onto the convertible top, catching the interior on fire, and in terms of the body and the drivetrain, it pretty much, well, didn't walk away, but very minimal damage. Some smoke damage, some soot. The windshield, I believe, was cracked, but all the drivetrain, wheels, tires, and like I said, the body panels were all in pretty good shape. And they actually salvaged the car, and the only reason for the salvage was because they had to spray water to put the fire out, meaning the car saw water and I guess was the equivalent of flood damage. Now, it's interesting nowadays to see a lot of these flood damage vehicles, whereas before they'd be branded as like irreparable or destruction titles or any of these things. Now they're getting sold and dried out and put back on the road. So I don't know what changed there. However, with that said, this car not so fortunate. So when I went to go see that car, the person that was storing it for him said, "Oh, I got another foxbody sitting over here underneath the cover," which was the Super Noof. Right? The gentleman unfortunately had passed away due to cancer, and the widow was left with the car, and after some back and forth, which was a pretty interesting story, I ended up with that car. So we'll dig into the Super Noof in a second, but the vert, I know a lot of you guys wondering what's going on because it didn't take much. Like the wiring of the car, with the exception of, I believe, the pigtail in the trunk for the fuel pump, right? So I had to hot wire the fuel pump, and guys, I don't even think the computer had an issue. I think the computer was fine. And car fired up and drove the car around, and he was in a battle with the Ontario Ministry of Transportation to allow him to rebuild the car. And that's where it left off. They denied him the second time, and he was trying to appeal it, and that is honestly all I know. So the car is still somewhere. And I'm sure it still runs and drives and stops, but it unfortunately, I couldn't tell you if it's going to see the light of day again. So moving on to the Super Noof, what a story. And it honestly caused a little bit of drama, believe it or not, guys. I had a couple pretty serious comments on some of the videos, and those comments were targeted via some of the family members or close friends of the individual that didn't necessarily like that I ended up with the car. And, I get it. People are frustrated in situations like that. And when people pass away, people kind of act in different ways sometimes, and we'll just leave it there. So ultimately what happened was my very good friend Andrew back in Canada always wanted a clean notch, and despite having his own that needs to be completely rebuilt, right, kind of took an interest in this particular car because number one, it was turnkey. Number two, it had some great mods. Number three, it was his color. Like, it's like that burgundy or like almost like brandy wine-ish type color that he loves. So aside from a Dutch kit, which of course he's from Canada, so we all love our Dutch kits up there, the car ticked all the boxes for him. So we made a deal, and I wasn't out to make a bunch of money on the car. I was more about trying to help out my friend and see the car go to a good home, because due to the storage, it did have some pretty significant frame rail rust, mostly on the driver's side, that needed to be repaired, and like a couple other issues, like just from sitting. Like, that interior was completely moldy, and there was some gaskets that were leaking. The motor had overheated from being started, and it sat, and that was before I got the car. So there was definitely some maintenance items to be done. So my friend was going through doing a 5-bolt conversion, and one of the family members had reached out to me, and they were actually quite polite. I do not remember if it was a nephew or a cousin of the gentleman, but essentially he shared his attachment and his sentiments to the car, that he had helped the owner work on it and had some amazing memories of the car, and wanted to know if I could put him in touch with my friend Andrew to see if Andrew would be willing to sell it. So I want to say the first time around was no, Andrew didn't want to sell it. He reached back out, and then I put the two of them in touch directly. And ultimately, Andrew let the individual buy the car off of him, so that, Andrew's like, it wasn't my build, it wasn't my personal emotions that were tied to the car, and he has another one that he can build as well. Now, it might kind of delay him in many ways, but with that said, I think everybody won in the end of that. So it's kind of a happy story. There's probably still some individuals that are upset that somebody else ended up with the car and they didn't, but that's life. So that's the burnt vert, and that's the super noof. So let's talk about the 58 Corvette. So that one, my dad's car, did some videos on that in Canada before moving down to Texas, and tried to get as much headway done as possible on it. And ultimately that was it. Got to spend some good time with my dad, plowing through, getting trim on and organizing parts and seeing what parts we were missing, so on and so forth. But yeah, the hourglass ran out. I came down to Texas, and I actually have a video on the car following up, because the car is actually here in Texas with me in this garage. I'm actually looking at the car right now. So there's going to be a video on that and the way forward for it. The goal is to have my dad able to drive that car down here while it's snowing in Canada. He can enjoy the nice winters of Texas and cruise around. So not every single last thing might be done to the car, but it will be in position to run, drive, stop, and lights work, and have the basic amenities to make sure that he can enjoy it. Things like wiper motors and convertible tops and parking brakes might sort of take a back seat, but we'll prioritize that one so my dad can get enjoying it. Next on the docket, lemon drop. And I think with my new yellow Dutch notch that I picked up recently, a lot of people are like, well, what about your yellow vert? And guys, that's just something, a project I didn't want to go the way that it went. I'd spent 2 weeks up at Boogie's shop before coming down to Texas, trying to get as much headway done on it, getting the Dutch kit fitted out and perfected, in terms of a couple little imperfections on it, doing the Jaguar door handles and the doors, and what else? Pulling out the K-member and assessing the rust situation on the front frame rails. And that was pretty much the stall point, unfortunately. So I met Boogie, guys, when I was like 18, maybe 19, right? So we're talking 25 years ago, and Boogie was probably near 40 then. So Boogie's definitely in his 60s now. He's winding down and has had trouble. Some of his like best guys, one passed away from cancer, I believe, and a couple others. It's just been hard to keep good work around. So as Boogie has been struggling with, you know, having some good help on the side, and obviously wanting to try and unwind or wind down his career of painting cars, it's been a challenge, and I get it. I haven't been able to say, hey, I'm just going to fly up and dedicate my time to go up there. So as of right now, I'm trying to find somebody up in the Toronto area that can do the frame rail repair. I got a brand new frame rail repair kit from LMR that's already sitting up there. Of course, all the tools and everything that's needed to install them is there and ready. So I'm hoping to find someone before the end of the year that can help out with that. And then, you know, I'll pretty much be in a position to do the rest of the body work and get the car painted. So I had actually, and I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, I thought about abandoning that build. And to be honest with you guys, if I don't find somebody that wants to do the frame rails, or it looks like it's gonna be more hassle than it's worth, I can't have that car sitting for another year and not progressing. It's just, it's not worth it. The storage, the time, the motivation, everything else, just, it doesn't make sense at that point. So even now, if the car was painted tomorrow, and, you know, I'd be sort of like, holy shit, okay, the car's ready, where am I going to put it? You know, do I have all my parts ready for it? All the interior's still up at Shop Dad's. So that's a lot. Pissbox Fox, 88 T-top. Always wanted a T-top car, and guys, I'm abandoning that one. The car has no title. Not that it's impossible to get a title for it. However, it's a lot of work when I'm not up in Ontario to try and deal with the paperwork revolved around trying to do so. And that car, it's better to either be sold as a project to somebody else that wants to take it on, or a parts car. So if anybody is interested in an 88 T-top, aka the Pissbox Fox, by all means, reach out to me. It's available. It's at Andrew's house. The car runs, drives, stops. I got that car running, and in fact, it probably runs even better now. Like even when me and Gary were up in Canada before Motor City Fox Fest here in 2024, Andrew put a battery in it. That thing fired right up, and Gary was just like, holy shit, I can't believe it. But it's a good project for somebody, or it's a lot of good parts for somebody else, right? Between T-roof frame, it's a 5-speed car, it's got a good running 5-liter motor, you got your 8.8 rear end, all those good things. Porno red interior that smells like mouse pee, but amazingly enough, it doesn't smell anywhere near as bad as it did when I first got that car. So that is the scoop on the Pissbox Fox. Moving along to another notch, the 86 notch, sitting at Spike's Refinishing in Ocala, Florida. Spike, man, you're killing me. I wanted that car done for Foxtoberfest of 2023. Foxtoberfest 2024 has already passed, and I was told I was going to get the car back and it was going to be painted in November, and we got what, like 5 days left of November 2024. So I know he's going to get the car done, but guys, I'm actually kind of demotivated on that one. I thought about painting it, like, do I paint it back to its original dark clove metallic? Do I paint it a generic color that's easy to sell, you know, black notch? It is an original 505 speed car for an 86. It's fairly slim pickings in terms of that pedigree. So I was going to do that, potentially flip it. And then I was like, you know, do I just get out of this and sell it as it is, or sell it with, you know, you can paint it any color you want, and the paint's covered by one of the best painters out there in the industry. And I just kind of said to myself, stick to my guns. Once the car is painted, it'll remotivate me to get the project done. So I have stuck to my guns, still getting the Detch kit, still getting the cowl hood, still going down the road that I was planning for the car. The motor's still, the small block still on the stand over here for it. That could change, right? Maybe Godzilla ends up in it, I don't know. But that car should be back for 2025. And that's another one that I'm like, oh shit, where am I gonna put it? Speaking of cars, I don't know where I'm gonna put when I get them back. My 1993 Cobra. My black Cobra, sitting with Red Dog's Custom Paint here locally to me. The car is literally 20 minutes away. I was supposed to get that car back before SEMA 2023. Well, SEMA 2024 has now passed, and I get it. You know what? I've been okay with the situation because number one, it's not in my way here. And number two, I don't have time to necessarily focus and put it together right now. Number three, I want it to be the straightest black 1993 Cobra out there when it comes back. So I do not want to rush perfection. But you guys can see we got a body shop jail trend here. We got three, right? We got Lemon Drop in Canada. We got the 86 Notch in Florida. And we got my 93 Cobra sitting right here in the Lone Star State of Texas. Three builds that I could possibly get them all back in 2025. I would pretty much need to dedicate 2025 to myself and my own cars. If I'm planning to get them all done, which means not sustainable to keep them all, I would have to sell them all, possibly when they're done and put back together. So I'm going to do some evaluation, right, and see how crazy I am for having all these personal projects on the go at once, and see what the feasibility is. But yeah, you might actually see more personalized infamous project builds in 2025 that that'll probably end up getting sold than working on other people's projects. Not that I'm not going to take on other builds, but I do need to focus on some of my own stuff. So we've got all of those. What else is missing? The old white BMW, the original ACS, AC Schnitzer 92 infamous project build that was done along the Stalker Vert. It is now down here in Texas, and I'm looking at it on the other side of my Silver Notch right now. That car is running, driving, stopping. I went through, there was a video on it earlier in the year, right? Changed the oil, got some new tires on it, did some other service items, got the angel eyes working again, cleaned out a bunch of mouse pee, barn smells out of it, and just got a fresh Haggerty policy on it. So I'm going to be enjoying that car here shortly. So that's a good one. Foxidized. Foxidized is sold, right? The patina vert. That was a surprise to me. Gentleman reached out from Amarillo, Texas, and said, man, I want that vert, that ugly convertible that you have. Caught me by surprise, but you know what? I didn't have to advertise it. Guy seemed real interested, wired me money, sent a truck. The car is gone, and he's loving it. Shipbox Fox, sitting outside with a bad fuel pump right now. So I got to get the fuel pump changed. And guys, that car's, it needs to find a new home. Whether it gets listed for sale or try and do some sort of waffle, if you will, something to promote and get it in the right hands of somebody. I'm sure by just understanding everything else that I've gone through, that you know, the shipbox is kind of, it's been done, and the project is completed. We did what we needed to do with the car. You know, it it was an amazing experience. But with that, it's time to pivot and move on. So stay tuned for getting the ship box back running, and then we'll see how to possibly find that car a new home, which I think leads me to the only last project that I haven't talked about and I have not worked on is my 65 Lincoln. And that one actually pains me a little bit because I would like to have that car running. I'm not trying to have all the body and paint and everything else done. I'd kind of like just the mechanics and, you know, right, the functionality of it, get the Godzilla swap done, and get that car running and driving and pimping on the road, get the air ride and all the suspension sorted out and whatever 22s I'm going to go with, which I actually think the Maker's Garage turbine style inspired by a wheel and a 22 would probably look pretty sick on that car. So something to think about. And to add, you know, more to my plate, I've actually got another 88 T-top coming. Made the deal at Motor City Fox Fest, dark shadow blue on titanium bottom. And so the color combo I've been looking for. It is a T-top, it runs and drives and stops. It's pretty original. I already got my ROH ZR6s ready for the car. We will be addressing the suspension and the stance and probably a quick once over body and paint trim resto and make a real nice driver out of it. Not going to be a full-blown restoration, just something that I can potentially enjoy and go from there. So there's that. And otherwise, guys, the white E60 BMW M5, that one, I think I'm going to put a little bit more money into that car. I was going to, you know, the accident history kind of freaked me out a little bit, but with the rarity of the car, and every time that I look at it, right, it's still got low miles. It seems to be in pretty good shape. I'm going to give it a once over and probably throw a couple more bucks at it and probably just enjoy that car a little bit as well. The blue one's going to get sold once I do the valve cover gaskets. They are leaking beyond leaking at this point. If you guys haven't heard the latest podcast, I thought that car was going to catch fire last week on my way home. So never a dull moment, guys. 2025 is going to be a very interesting year in the way that things go. So stick around. We'll be keeping you updated. And I say will because I need somebody else. I haven't found the other person. Need somebody else to help out in order to move the infamous project forward. The playlist title for season 7 was Expand or Bust. And I don't know how many of you may or may not have caught on to that, but we are there, or I am there. I need to expand this thing and continue to allow it to grow strategically and in a positive direction, or I need to rethink what it is that I'm doing. So month of December, a lot of reflection, a lot of follow-up. You can see just by everything that I've spoken about, you know that I'm thinking about all of these things. They're on my mind, and guys, time goes by so fast. I talk about it in the small little update video on the 58 Corvette that over 3 years have gone by since me and my dad, you know, wrenched and did some work on that thing. And, you know, just like that, we're not getting any younger. So need to do that. And there's actually another car sitting up in Canada that I bought. I bought another SN95 Dutch car. I'm not going to get into the details other than it's a super cool story. It'll fit perfectly in with the Dutch documentary that I want to do next year. So 2025 is going to be busy. So be prepared for that. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this long-winded update video, and you know, just talking about it gets the wheels and the gears turning in my head. Just talking about it. So thank you guys for your support, especially if you made it all the way to the end. Hopefully it has answered all your questions about some of the cars that haven't really been on the channel in a while, and hopefully you get a sense of the way forward. So until next time, we'll see you back on the Infamous Project.